Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And we are very excited to showcase this next guest here on our network, so sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride. And on the line with us today, we have Johnny M. Wilson Jr. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, Paradigm Shift, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And people, listen, if you want to gather everything that Johnny has to offer, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site. And that's paradigmshiftjw.com. There you'll find more information on Johnny himself, more information on this fantastic narrative, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's paradigmshiftjw.com. And I will say, Johnny was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, Sweetspire Literature Management. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give and move it through Sweetspire. And you can find out more information on their fantastic company at sweetspireliterature.com. And people, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Johnny here on the line. Now, I was joking around with him plenty in the pre-screening call, but first and foremost, he's a fellow New Englander. So right there off the bat, there's a connection already that we have, okay? We just understand each other to a certain extent, because then when it comes to basketball, we're on different planes here, but yeah, that's a story for another day. For today's interview, it's all about his book, Paradigm Shift. Now, the moment you head to his website, paradigmshiftjw.com, his Amazon, his Barnes & Noble pages, you start to do any research on it, you're instantly going to understand what we're discussing today. Now, you all have heard me talk extensively a number of times on previous interviews with regards to adversity. Right? I mean, it's just a part of life, unfortunately. And when you get to a certain age, you understand that that is just going to happen, right? You got to roll with the punches. Now, oftentimes, we try to avoid them at all costs, myself included, okay? Let me just speak for myself. And I've mentioned on the past that we really shouldn't, right? And a line of thinking that I started to develop, probably late teens, but definitely early on in my adulthood, was there are no wins and losses in life. There are wins and lessons. So even in those moments of adversity, even in those moments that would otherwise be categorized as a loss, there's a silver lining. And there are always messages to be gained and things to be learned from that. And it all depends on your perception and how you choose to look at it. You know, and I love to talk to Johnny on the pre-screening call because he was talking about, hey, change is challenging. And it's not always bad. Some things are actually very positive. And really, when you stop and you think about it, there's a quote that I'm going to have to paraphrase that I remember learning. And it was a culmination of everything you ever wanted is on the opposite side of hard. Which means, guys, when you go through that adversity, you face it head on and you continue to chip away and you get to the opposite side, everything you want is there, right? Now, of course, we're oversimplifying. There are a lot of layers to that. But for the sake of the interview, oversimplification is needed and is absolutely necessary. And listen, Johnny is the expert. He's written the book. This is his life's work. And he's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Johnny, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you, man?
Yes, thank you very much.
Of course, Johnny. We're really looking forward to this. I think the messages in your book they're profound, and absolutely something that we need in today's day and time. Now, before we go into your book, Johnny, let's hold off slightly. Please start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background.
My background is basically Southern Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Father and mother, military and teachers. Father was a principal for 30 years. Father was served in the military for 30 years. Mother was a teacher. Both of them went to HBUC colleges. And there's a real sense of pride and dignity in terms of what it means to persevere and have resilience in a life that was quite different when I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. Not giving up and having the power of the spirit of the African American church in the South. And when you have that kind of support system around you, you're able to rise to the occasion of struggle and flight and meaning in your life. And my mother, who said to me after the death of Dr. King, I said, why did this happen? She said, hold on. You are to love, you are to love, and you are to love and believe that all things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
And with that 12-year-old understanding, it began to grow within me, my heart and soul and spirit. And coming to the occasion of living out my life in various places throughout this nation.
Right.
The West Coast, the East Coast, the South. I was equipped mentally and psychologically and socially to take on the giants of this American experience.
Mm-hmm.
So paradigm, the idea came from my brother who's an engineer. He said, in order to fix something, sometimes you got to tear it apart and put it back together. My life was part of a shift. And that shift from 17 to 40, well, you can guess my age. And I'll let you.
There you go. Smart man.
Live with suspense.
Smart.
Read more about who I am.
Smart man. You know, Johnny, we don't talk about ages here, okay? We're in the entertainment industry. We leave it up to them, okay?
Yes.
You know, I love what you're doing here. Joking aside, man, I think the messages are profound, as I stated before. First and foremost, before we move any further, I just want to say thank you to your parents who were educators. I had a very brief stint in education myself. I have a lot of friends that are educators today, and I just want to put it out there, man. Educators never get the amount of credit that they deserve for all the hats that they have to wear, because it is daunting. There is so much that educators have to take on and have to deal with. Yeah, listen, you may be a history teacher, but we know that certain days you're going to need to be a referee. You're going to need to be a therapist. You're going to need to be a friend. I mean, there's a lot that happens. And again, educators never get the amount of credit that they deserve. So first and foremost, thank your parents for that and all of the work that they did helping shape and develop the minds of today's generation and also future generations. But also, Johnny, I believe you said that they also both served, and I think I remember you saying that you also served.
Yes.
In our military. So thank you very much to you and also to your parents for their dedication that they had, and also yours in protecting our freedoms here in America, man. We are forever indebted to your service, and nothing that we can do or say obviously can ever repay that. But thank you very much, and that's a start.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, Johnny, without further ado, man, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit more about your book, Paradigm Shift.
I was on a retreat several years ago in California. And as I was struggling with my own congregation and change, on the airplane, I began to think about writing the book, Paradigm Shift. Because it was something in the retreat there in Redwood, California, north of Oakland. As I began to write on the plane, returning in 2008 in October, and I saw excitement and opportunity in another place. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be in that place of opportunity, an opportunity to help people to move out of their mute mentality, the mentality of silence, the mentality of hope and resilience. So I began to write that first chapter. I'm not a writer, more of a speaker. Mm-hmm. Wasn't worried about how the perfection of it, but it was the spirit of the book that I needed to get out and begin to challenge the centrality of the church in general, that the church need to have boots on the ground. It need to touch the poor and the oppressed, and read in the literature of James Cone and the literature of Cornel West and the literature of Michael Dyson, and how I began to read literature about how to get over, how to deal with the stuff on Monday morning. As a clergy person, we can always talk about the high and the by, and I'm going somewhere. No, we got to help somebody across the road. We got to help mama who don't have any food on the table, still living in conditions. Paradigm shift is about the opportunity to make the best out of a bad day. The opportunity to get up from where you are and make a difference in somebody else's life. I am a product of the hurt and the pain throughout my whole life, but did not allow it to get in my soul and my spirit and my heart. It is important that we learn how to shift, to help others to have a new kind of paradigm, an opportunity to live, allow the spirit to move in places that are uncomfortable. So opportunity can live within our community and our homes, not just the pie and sky of a religion and faith and culture.
Right.
And I don't want to say too much about this book, but the third chapter is very important in terms of paradigms, strategy, movement, conversation. How do we have a conversation where things are not always well, complete, put together?
I mean, that's the $1 million question,
resources.
Johnny. That's the $1 million question. There is, how do we formulate the conversation? Now, I want to go back to something that you started off with, and you were talking about how people have, forgive me, but it sounded like you said mute minds, M-U-T-E minds, right? Muted minds, got it. Now, that instantly made me think of the clearest correlation that I can think of is, of course, in recent times, I mean, well, racism has always been here, right? But in recent times, racism has been really on the forefront of people's perception, with the marching going on, the police brutality, all of that. And I know one common thing that has been established and brought up through that is how if you are silent in the face of this prejudice, in the face of this racism, it's almost like you're complicit in it. Now, I want you to elaborate on mute minds for me. And the point that I just made in terms of the correlation to racism, is that somewhat of what you're talking about here, where people see things happening and it's just like, man, we're not even going to try to even approach it. We're not going to say anything. We're just going to leave it alone. And that obviously ends up being more of a deterrent than helping us advance to where we ultimately want to come as a society. Talk to me about your perception on that and what you feel about what I just said.
The perception of the mute means that you see it, you feel it, but you don't respond to it. Mm-hmm. You're in the operating room. You're on oxygen. You see it, but you don't react to it. You don't respond to it. You don't try to reach out and touch.
All right.
And I think that has to do with trauma in the lives of people. When we think about our individual self, the firefighter goes through the fire. They don't wait. Mm-hmm. And we have to go through the fire. The only way we're going to change, we got to have a change. We got to have a paradigm shift that is different than we've ever seen before. Sometimes it means risk and sacrifice. Maybe you need to lose your life for the sake of others. Mm. And that means having a conversation that people cannot even have a conversation today,
right,
about those hard-hitting issues, because the fear that we have. And Howard Thurman speaks about the disinherited of Jesus, how fear and love and hate has been the dominant theme, hate. And then he talks about love. But the book talks about strategies of how we are able to go beyond that and have that conversation.
Right.
Because without that condition of love, without the love to be able to face and speak those words, truth to power, we're doomed.
Absolutely.
As we can see that when we think about what's going on with the Ukraine situation and
Absolutely.
negotiations,
Yeah.
people are looking and they're seeing the trauma and asking the question, where is the possibility of hope in this? Is this hopelessness?
Mm-hmm. Guys, again, we're here on the line with Johnny M. Wilson Jr. We're discussing his amazing book, Paradigm Shift, available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or directly through his personal site, paradigmshiftjw.com. Johnny, next question here. In addition to your overall experience, what type of research did you do in preparation for the book?
Basically, part of my doctoral studies, this was part of my doctoral work
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing, and I just basically turned the book, the research into a book, and it was dealing with urban development, working in cooperation and unity with brokers of the community to help the community to grow, help the community to be consistent in terms of taking care of others. Because part of the book was really working with the nonprofits as the local church to help the feeding program, do other things other than just the church being a preaching station. Anybody can be a preaching station on Sunday, but you can do something on Monday and Tuesday. You can develop a nonprofit. And so the book is really designed to create possibilities where you think there isn't any possibilities.
Right.
Because with a conversation, there's possibility that hope will come alive and things will begin to happen. And it's part of reaching beyond oneself, paradigm shift to make a difference. And that's why when we discover the possibilities of positive change, people can become blessed and helped because of resources and hope in our society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Johnny, who's your intended audience? And in addition to that, what are you hoping to see them take from your book?
The intended audience is leaders who are at the forefront of making decisions. People that believe that change is possible. Anyone that really wants to be inspired by the author's life, the life of struggle. My life was a life of struggle and pain and suffering, but I didn't allow this to kill me, to set me back, or to become muted.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone has went to undergraduate studies in the South in 1971 at a predominantly white institution in those days, and be able to survive that is horrendous. And never give up. And I think my life is about never giving up, no matter what the circumstances are. And I just wrote this book out of the sense of passion, that I needed to get it out of my heart and spirit, to write what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the perfect book, but it is the spirit of the book, rather than the scholarship of the book.
Right.
Sometimes we don't learn in ivory towers, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. We learn how to communicate with people wherever they are. That's what's important. The scholarship is the heart and the spirit and mind of the human beings. When we learn that kind of wisdom, that kind of learning, the paperwork is not a problem. This learning is different. It's a higher power learning that are able to touch people where they are.
Right.
And give them hope that seems to be impossible.
Well, Johnny, listen, we're glad you did, because now we get to reap the rewards of the work that you put forth. And as we start to close out of this wonderful interview, man, what's next for you? What's on the horizon? Is there a sequel to this book upcoming? Talk to us about what's next.
The secret of the book is engineering theology, paradigm shift. There's a uniqueness in engineering and theology and you. And it's coming up and it's exciting. Engineering theology has never been written, but It's blowing my mind
There
because
you go.
my brother's an engineer and he's helping with this. You see, engineers can break something and they can put it back together.
Absolutely.
Woo! And I'll leave it at that.
There you go. There you go. Listen, people, you know what you have to do. The education doesn't stop.
Engineering theology.
The education does not stop. Johnny, this is incredible, man. Listen, guys, you know what you have to do, okay? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Paradigm Shift, JW.com are the places you have to go. Paradigm Shift is the title you have to pick up. And Johnny M. Wilson Jr. is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. Head on over there today. Pick up your copies. A wonderful book for you to have on your shelf, and an even better gift for you to put on someone else's. So head on over there and pick it up today. You know, Johnny, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Come and be a guest with us on People of Distinction.